So welcome. So glad you're here. I would love to start with a prayer. So close your eyes. Land in your body. Land in your breath. Whatever your day has been like, whether it's been the best day or the worst day or sort of a medium day, just let it be in the rearview mirror at this moment. Matteo, could you close that window? I just realized I forgot a window. Thank you. Open your awareness up, your crown center up to the presence of the infinite heavens above us and around us. Go beyond your little mind, the chattering mind that talks all day long. Go beyond that mind and feel out into the limitless space in every direction. In this limitless space, imagine Shiva, however you imagine Shiva, or God, but specifically Shiva, seated in eternal meditation, the deepest samadhi. And in his samadhi of deep, deep, infinite, eternal peace, imagine that peace spreading out over all of the universe, the galaxies, everywhere and everything. And then imagine the beautiful manifestation of Maharaji, what you know of Maharaji, Neem Kro Ali Baba, his playful monkey self, and feel into a relationship with him, a real relationship with him. Talking to him, using him as your angel guide, wise master. And just establish that relationship, that Maharaji is there for you, also limitless and available. We ask him today to bless our time together. And gently draw your palms together in front of your heart. Plant this deep peace into your being. Hari Om, Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. So glad you're here. All right, so how many people know anything about Patanjali's Yoga Sutras? Something. Okay, a few a little bit. So that's not uncommon, even if you've studied yoga for a long time. Lots of people don't really, haven't really delved into the sutras. I have books that I really, really love, and I can say that early on in my life, my search was dedicated to, I want to find the truth, okay? The truth. What is the truth? Now that's really tricky because there's lots of people who say they have the truth, okay? And I didn't want to find a truth, or your truth, or your truth. I was like, is there a truth that's true, whether you believe it to be or not, okay? Because we're clear that whatever you believe to be true is your experience, you know, and so that's one thing. But I wanted to know, is there a truth that's true, whether I believe it to be true or not, and how do I find that, okay? So that's a tricky search, but that's ultimately the search of yoga. It is called the Sanatan Dharma, the religionless religion, okay? Searching for Sanatan Dharma, okay? Patanjali Sutras is the closest thing out of every religion, anywhere, any scripture, anything that I've ever come to going like, here's the mechanics in the simplest form, devoid of all sort of dogma that you could possibly throw on it, and all sort of any kind of flowery language that might trigger you into something else. This is it, the mechanics for attaining peace. This is it, as clear, as clean, as simple as you can possibly find it. Okay, so it's one of the reasons why people aren't really attracted to it. Okay, it is 196 lines, so very short 4 chapters, 196 lines. Many people memorize them. But I'm going to tell you a little way I feel about the last chapter. There's a debate among scholars about this last chapter of Patanjali's Yoga Sutras. The last chapter, it's a debate whether he wrote it at all. And I'm on the debate that Patanjali did not write the 4th chapter, because the 4th chapter, Patanjali in chapter 1, 2, and 3, does not waste a single syllable, a single, everything is so tight and so precise. And then the 4th chapter is like a repetition of what was, a little flowery, sort of doesn't meanders in a way. It's just not, it's a totally different voice. And I don't think Patanjali would waste a second, and certainly wouldn't need to repeat, like what he's already said. So I don't ever really teach about the 4th chapter at all. I'm like, fine, read it, it's great, And the other thing is, when you read the 4th chapter, it's like you just read through it, as opposed to Patanjali Sutras, where one sutra is like, blows your mind, and every sutra is a meditation. Every sutra could unlock something for you. So I'm of that school, Patanjali, it's interesting. So this is this book, just to give you, we're talking about the context of it. So you can see the 196 lines. They're written in poem-like form, like all sutras, threads are. Sutra means thread, so it's called the unadorned thread of yoga. This book and the Bhagavad Gita are considered the quintessential texts on yoga. Okay? In neither of those books are there any mention of postures. Now, there are plenty of practices in here, but there's no, put your right foot here, your left foot needs to be aligned in this way. This is what a triangle looks like. Now, in the Bhagavad Gita, it does say there are as many yoga postures as there are infinite manifestations of God. So that would have you go, yoga is not these, 26 poses that, we got taught or whatever. Yoga is not about the form. Yoga is about something else. So this is about the internal process of enlightenment. Both Patanjali and Buddha wanted to end suffering and say, why does suffering exist? How can we be happy? What is enlightenment? So this is a book on how to end suffering. Often people say Patanjali is to yoga what Buddha is to Buddhism. Okay, so this is his very pithy, very concise document on, and I think it's the most incredible teacher's manual on, like, wow, most of us come down on the planet and it's like, wouldn't it be, where's the manual? What's the goal here? How do we do it? This is a manual, and it is amazing. I'm not going to try and race through it, because to do this in an hour and a half is really blasphemous. So I am going to see where we get to, and the next talk a month from now will be taking up where we last left off. So I hope that I intrigue you enough to come to enjoy today and to want to know about the goodies that are coming after this. Any questions about this, Patanjali, the book, etc.?
When was it written?
It was written 2,000 years ago, in the 1st or 2nd century. So it's not as old as the Bhagavad Gita, which is anywhere from 3,000 to 5,000 years old, but still, around the Jesus time. And I want to say, so this book, if you were going to buy a book, I recommend this book. Really love it, by Mukunda Stiles. The second book I recommend is this book. Now, this book is expensive comparatively, like this is like $60. But here's the deal. When you buy this book, you're buying 12 copies of Patanjali Sutras. So the reason why I love this book is because when I first started studying the sutras many years ago, there were only 3 copies of the sutras available. So I had all 3 copies out, and I would read the first sutra, and then I would go, okay, that's what this one says, that's this interpretation, and that's this interpretation. Thank you, Mateo. I like to make notes and then never use them. So as I like to say, planning is priceless, plans are useless. So this is my favorite rendition, translation, but this is a really incredible way. If you want to study the Yoga Sutras, this is what goes on here. So you see the first sutra written in Devanagari script. Then you see it in phonetic, Atta Yoga Nushasanam. Then here it breaks Atta Yoga Nushasanam down into the dictionary sort of definitions of Atta Yoga Nushasanam. And then here you have 12 different translations of that first verse by really great people. Georg Fierstein, Shivananda, the head Krishna guy, Satchidananda, Vivekananda, Taimini, Ganeshvar. So really great translations. And you can see how they're different. What I love is there's space here to write your own. So I would suggest a sutra a day, read them, meditate, write your own version of your sutra, and then carry on and go on to Sutra 2. So just to give you a start, because those first sutras are amazing, and some of you have heard me because I have done this here at Hanuman, Maui. So the first sutra, Atta. This sets the stage. Atta. So Atta means now. Now. And as far as I'm concerned, the sutras could begin and end with that. Because the teachings of all yoga are, how do I be here now forever? In this present moment of the presence of now, Atta, forever. And Atta, Sanskrit, is actually, it's to me, it's got action to it. And Atta is boom, land in the Atta. Then we've got next yoga, which means union. Now, union. Now, union. Now, union. Now, union. Now, union. Or now, not union. Now, nope, anything but union. Now, nope, not union. But this is a mantra. Atta yoga. Atta yoga. Now, union. Now, union. With the present moment. The next word is Nushasanam. And I love this word because it means to inquire, to be curious, to educate, to explore. So it's not knowing things. So it's Atta, now, yoga, union, inquire, experience, feel, be curious, be open to. Atta, yoga, Nushasanam. Now, union is yours for the taking, for the experience. Now, union, feel it. Okay, that's a good sutra. So often the way these sutras were taught was always Sanskrit is meant to be sung because it's a vibrational language and the vibration itself does transform people. So we're going to sing the first sutra with some hand motions. It goes like this. Atta, which is now. So you're, opening up to the present moment. Yoga, which is union. Nushasanam, which is you inquire, you feel it all around you. So it goes, Atta yoga nushasanam. Atta yoga nushasanam. Atta yoga nushasanam. Okay, now yoga is here. Now, most of these interpretations begin with things like, now my instruction on yoga teaching will begin. And I think that is like Patanjali would scream, because that's again a waste of a sentence. Now I'm going to tell you what I'm about to do. I mean, it's a waste of a sentence. This, now, union, inquire, okay? Rather than, let's see, his interpretation, which is typical of many people's, which I don't care for. With great respect and love, now the blessings of yoga instruction is offered. Okay, that's lovely, but now, Atta, yoga, experience, okay? That's a whole different ballgame when you break it down. So we'll go on to Sutra 2, Atta Yoga Nushasanam. The second one goes like this. Yogas, I'll write it down. That would be easier. Yogas, which is yoga. Chitta, vrittis, nirodha. Niro, nirodha. So let's just say that. Yogas, chitta, vrittis, nirodha. So yoga, union, so it's saying union happens, and then there's these two things, chitta and vrittis. I'm going to start with what the vrittis are. So the vrittis, and I love this word, are the crazy vacillation, the waves of vacillation that the mind goes through. Okay, it's the up and down, and I consider it like the static, like right now we're sitting here and internet waves are going through and cell phone waves are going through and every pornography and YouTube and Netflix, it's all out there. Okay, so those are the vrittis. And we have a choice which vritti we're going to ride and energize or not. Okay, but most people are just victims to the vrittis. They're attracted over here, they're repulsed over there, they're thrown around constantly by the vrittis that come their way. So the trick here is to create right relationship with the vrittis. Chitta is the part of the mind that is your witness consciousness. Chitta directs attention. Okay, and says, I'm going to place my attention over here. I'm going to draw my attention back. I'm going to place my attention over here. I'm going to draw my attention back. Oh, look, I'm having that thought. Not a great thought. I'm going to pull it back and choose this thought. Okay, establishing chitta, witness consciousness, which is in charge of your attention, is the goal of yoga. That's where the discipline and practice lies. Because if you're not in charge of your mind, if there's no chitta, you're just vrittis. Okay, you're just one judgment after another flowing, and you're being done versus you deciding which thought you'd like to have and energize. Nirodha means balance, so right relationship. The mind has a purpose because without the vrittis, we need to label things: dog, cat, blue, crouch, sit, land. If we didn't have language, we would not be able to operate here. At the same sense, we need to have our ability to decide what we're going to choose. The moment you label something, it is not it. Okay, so the thing itself is far beyond any label you could ever get it. I love this saying: the moment you start talking about Zen, you're far from it, because Zen is an experience, and truly everything is an experience. But we need labels. So it's great to talk about Zen. It helps us get there to open up the feel so that we can begin to have an experience of Zen, but experience is king. So with this union, yogas. Yogas is established when chitta and vrittis, these are the vrittis, come into right relationship. So the way it goes is this: yogas chitta vritti nirodha, yogas chitta vritti nirodha, yogas chitta vritti nirodha. And then one more in this form, and it'll set the whole thing up. So the third sutra is, after that, new color, tada drashtu, tada drashtu, tada Vashtu nam. Okay, tada drashtu swarupe vashtanam. So with this, you've heard of Tadasana. Tada. Okay, I'm standing. I stand firm in. So once I create right relationship, I will stand firm. And drashtu, you've heard of many people in yoga that say drishti. Now most people misuse that because drishti, people will say in yoga things like find your drishti. And drishti is actually your flowing attention. So it would be appropriate to say find something to flow your drishti towards, not choose a drishti. Drishti is your flowing attention. Being in charge of your drishti is what we're wanting here. So drashtu is your attention. So once you get right relationship between chitta and vrittis, you stand firm with your attention in swarupe, your high self. Your high self gleams, and vashtunam, and then you shine forth. Then you shine forth. So it opens like a lotus. So it looks like this. Tada drashtu swarupe vashtanam, in front of your heart. So we'll do it 3 times. Tada drashtu swarupe vashtanam. Tada drashtu swarupe vashtanam. tada drashtu swarupe vashtanam Hari Om, Hari Om, Hari Om. So I add that part. But third sutra. So then you're seated in your true self. When you establish right relationship, when you become in charge of your attention, when you can deliberately take your attention off of the vrittis, you will seat yourself in the now, you will experience union, and your swarupe, your soul, will shine forth in all that you do. That's a pretty good beginning, wouldn't you say? Okay, the rest is instructions on how to do that. And then the fourth sutra, which I love a lot, is basically like, and if you don't do that, you're basically doomed to unhappiness. It doesn't say it quite like that. What it says is, at all other times, the self appears to assume the form of its thoughts and vacillations, the vrittis, and the true self is lost. So any other time besides this, when you're not really, seated in your true self, the true self gets lost, and so it is. So what do you think about the introduction? Any thoughts, questions, anything? Hey, Jason. How are you? Yes? Oh, you're sick. All right, so I'm going to skip around. We're certainly not going to go in depth like this into every one, but I want to get to some of the high points here. So it says, the vacillating waves of perception, which are actually the vrittis. So that's the word here, the Sanskrit word for that would be the vrittis. The vrittis are stilled through consistent earnest practice and dispassionate non-attachment. Now, here's the gig. Most of these will say you've got to still the vrittis, you've got to quiet the mind, you've got to get rid of the vrittis. And I would say, again, not true. So this, I don't really care for this, stilling the vrittis. Nobody stills the vrittis. The vrittis, it's like, I'm going to turn off all the internet waves that are out there. I'm going to turn off all of the thoughts that are in the universe. It's not possible. What I can do, however, is disassociate from them. I can establish myself over here and create my own world that is not the vrittis, and so I can disassociate from them. And that's what I really would like these to read, is that you begin to learn how to remove yourself from the consistent vrittis that are happening all the time, to disassociate from them. So, the vacillating waves of perception are stilled through consistent earnest practice and dispassionate non-attachment. Now, I love this line because this is the difficulty of growing. Non-attachment and earnestness, okay? So Swami Kripala used to say we have 2 feet. One is the will, okay, and one is surrender. These are diametrically opposed. We have to go, this is what I want, this is what I'm manifesting, this is where I'm headed, this is what I'm passionate about. Thy will be done, Lord, I don't care, it's up to you. I really have no purpose for being here anyways, and show me what you want to do. I'm completely non-attached. Here's where I want to go, here's what I want to do, this is what I think will make me happy, this is what my next action is. Thy will be done, Lord. Tell me if to turn right or left, or which way I should turn. I'm open to any changes. May this or something better become manifest. It's really hard to walk the line of two. It's like schizophrenic to walk both. And we know people who are constantly over here with to-do lists and constant control and manipulating the universe, and they're doing really well often. We get jealous of them because they have control, right? And then we know people who get stuck over here. Whatever. I'm just being. Being is, with no action, okay? So that's great, but really the balance here is how do we head towards, what it is that we're heading towards, and how do we be non-attached? They go together. I think that is a big piece of practice here that he's getting us set up for. How do we practice? Will and surrender. Now, I know for myself, the many times that I get on my hands and knees and I come to a place in my life where I'm like, okay, God, what's next? I want whatever. Let me do your will. Tell me what your will is and I will do it. And if God said, Devarshi, I want you to be a doctor, I'd be like, great, I'm going to med school. God has told me, and I would do it. It doesn't matter what I was told to do, I would do it if God told me to do it. However, every time I do that, what happens is God says, Devarshi, be happy. And I hate that. I hate that. That's like a curse. It's like, what? You're sending it back to me? Be happy? You got to be kidding. Wait, no, I want you to tell me to, be a doctor, be something. Like I was so jealous when I was growing up because my best friend grew up in a strongly Jewish household, and his mother was really adamant about making sure that I knew the Jewish faith, which I was very appreciative of, and my friend was very not appreciative of. And I was so jealous that he had these riverbanks and identity and, all this belonging that I didn't have. And my parents were like, just be happy. Yeah, he had to get A's. My parents were like, whatever, never looked at my report card. Are you having a good time? Seems like you're a good kid. That's good enough for us. I wanted more than that. Like I felt like that was really important. Now I'm really happy that my parents were like, the goal is here, be happy. You don't have to stress out. Of these two practices, will and surrender, the continuous struggle to become firmly established in the true self, in the stable state of the true self. So of these two, practice is the continuous struggle of becoming firmly established in your true self. Okay? So that's what we're doing here, is staying seated in the now, all the time, in every now, in our true self. And noticing when we get knocked off of our true self. Every moment that we get knocked off and out of it. That's the practice. And notice how he says it's continuous struggle. It's not like, got it. It's continuous struggle. So I always liken this struggle to a balance pose. When you stand like this, there's never a moment where I go, got it. Like I'm shaking, this is constant. It's constant struggle. It's constant adjustment. It's constant, be right here. I can't zone out. I have to stay right here. My leg is shaking. I'm here. This is the present moment. That's what this takes, continuous struggle. Then he says, practice is indeed firmly grounded when it is pursued incessantly, with reverence, and for long periods of time. Okay? So, incessantly, you got to be dedicated and passionate. With reverence, great faith in God. Come on, God, help me out all the time. I am praying. I would love for your enlightenment. I would love to be helped. I need help here. And over long periods of time. Okay? It doesn't happen in a moment. That's pretty realistic, wouldn't you say? Okay, so there we are on the path here. For those who have an intense urge for spirit and wisdom, it sits near them, waiting. And then the end of spiritual practice is only attained when you by placing oneself in the Lord, by being seated in all that is. So that gives us this description of where we're going. Now he starts to lay out some practices, which are really fun. So here's a practice, the first practice that gets laid out in Patanjali Sutras. The sound denoting that self is the eternal vibration Om, which manifests the grace of divine presence. By consistently repeating that sacred sound with great respect and love and reflecting on its meaning, one attains spiritual wealth. Okay, first practice, chant Om continually, incessantly, over long periods of time. Allow the vibration to take you over. That's pretty cool. Now I'm going to do a little side note here. So Om is really interesting, and it exemplifies the power of Sanskrit. When Om, and there's a great YouTube about the power of Om, and you can YouTube this. If Om was chanted on water, what you would see is this. So in a YouTube that I watched, so here's the surface of water, okay? They put this big bowl into the center of the room. They turned on the vibration of Om, the sound of Om. And first, on this flat surface, you see it start to get electrified. So it's bubbling. Then what happens is a ridge rises up. And the ridge creates a circle. All right, well, that's pretty interesting. A circle is like so incredible, sacred geometry right here. The edge of the circle is is pi. So it goes on infinitely. There's no edge to the edge of a circle. This immediately says infinite. At the same sense, it says there's something outside and there's something inside. So for out of everything and nothing, suddenly we have something, and then we have what's not the something. So there's a definition of what happens when that happens. Then what happens is, once this circle starts, it starts to turn into a, a funnel. So it starts to funnel in on itself, which is cool. And then that funnel starts to do this. And then it creates two funnels. And this funnel circles like this, and this funnel circles like that. Okay? Then what happens is this ridge rises up, and these two circles are continually moving within this major circle. Okay, so anybody recognize this symbol? The yin-yang symbol. This symbol, just so you know, shows up in crop circles. It shows up in every ancient culture everywhere. This is pretty fascinating. So the sound that denotes all sounds, okay, is Om. Om, the vibration of Om, creates this sacred geometry. This sacred geometry represents duality, the masculine, the feminine, the light, the dark. Again, out of all that is, suddenly we get duality, but duality is constantly turning into its opposite. So what the Tao Te Ching says about the what is this again? The yin-yang sign is that everything is always evolving and turning into its opposite. And when you watch this, you see evolution, because it goes like this, boom, and it spins out, and then into the center, and boom, and then it spins out, and then spins out, and boom. So that's an interesting process of evolution right here in Om. So when you chant Om, it's not just that you're sitting there being a great spiritual person going, oh, look, let's chant Om, it's so new age, Om. You know, this vibration is taking place inside every cell of you. Om is a vibrational healing that draws things into balance and will literally put things into this Om washing machine and spin out what doesn't vibrate with it. So the continual chanting of Om is a pretty powerful vibration. And we know that the Bible says, in the beginning was the word, sound, vibration, and from sound things became manifest. Well, that is what science proves. You know, this physical reality that we've got here is nothing but vibrating light that's manipulated by thought that appears to have some substance to it. So, pretty cool. I, took this seriously for many, many years in the ashram. We had this brand new invention. You guys will love this invention. It came out. It was called an endless loop tape. It was so amazing. You put it in your cassette, and somehow that thing kept going. So I would go to bed every night with an endless loop tape of Om, so that my room was filled with Om all night as I slept, allowing the vibration to go in, and, so one way of practicing because of Patanjali Sutras. Pretty cool, huh? So Sanskrit is a vibrational language. And again, it's called Devanagari because Deva, God, Nagari, the language of the angels. And it is believed that everyone knows Sanskrit at the deepest part, that our souls actually speak Sanskrit, which is the vibrational language, and that when we all cross over, it's Sanskrit that gets spoken, and Sanskrit itself manifests the thing that it's speaking about. So if the word in Sanskrit is tree, the vibration of that actually creates a tree kind of deal. So it's like, this is the creation of a tree. It's a magic language that doesn't exist anymore. I have a theory about that too, but we're not going to talk about that. In order to prevent these obstacles from arising, okay, so we're skipping that. All right, so from this practice arises the attainment of inward directed consciousness, and obstacles to success will disappear. Okay, that's pretty cool. By chanting Om, you will attain an inward directed consciousness, and obstacles to success will disappear. And then it talks about these obstacles. In order to prevent these obstacles from arising, you should habituate yourself to meditation upon a single principle. So that single principle can be an Om. That single principle can be a flame, a candle flame. Can be the left eye of your lover. It can be a mantra. It can be a single principle that you decide to devote yourself to. My suggestion is practice Dirga Ujjayi breath. It is the anchor of meditation. So Dirga Ujjayi breath is the essential foundational practice of yoga, conscious breathing. Because in order to consciously breathe, you have to be right here. In order to consciously breathe, some part of yourself, your chitta, your higher mind, has to say, I'm going to breathe consciously. I'm going to breathe in now. I'm going to breathe out now. And if that goes off, suddenly you're like, gosh, the ocean is so beautiful, and what am I doing? And then you're not there, and then the breath is gone. So staying in a conscious breath and the practice of a conscious breath teaches presence into the now. So continual over long periods of time, and that's the trick. There's lots of people like do it for short periods of time. And Patanjali is really urging us to keep extending that. Short is good, longer is better, really long, really better. It works away more of the impurities that keep us from being focused. Then he says, the obstacles could be lessened by forcibly exhaling, then retaining the prana during the pause following the exhalation. So this is called an external kumbhak. So what that would look like is this. You would inhale. You would exhale all your air out nice and slow. At the bottom, hold it out. Close your eyes. Let out a little bit more. Close your eyes. Stay. Stay in the stillness. Stay. 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 And when you're ready, gently open your eyes. That's an external kumbhak. So playing with your breath. The breath is an amazing tool for creating witness consciousness. And that's why it's the main practice for getting us ready for meditation, which is being in charge of our attention. I'm skipping many things, but I want to get to the highlights here so that we get the real heat of it. One whose vacillations, or vrittis, are steadily diminishing, experiences the mind as transparent, just as a high-quality gemstone reveals the form of objects that are placed near it. So if you polish a gem, it becomes like a mirror. If you polish your mind, what happens is people in your presence see themselves rather than your judgments. Okay? And we all know what it's like when we get into the presence of someone who has no witness consciousness, but they're projecting onto us. And what we get is they don't even see who I am. They're seeing some idea of who I am. They're seeing their fifth grade teacher. They're seeing some man that looked like me, 10 years ago. They're not seeing me. Okay? So the trick here is to have our vrittis, our thoughts and judgments, out of the way so that what we're seeing is what it is. The goal of all yoga is to experience the present moment. This is Patanjali, to experience the present moment just as it is without any distortions. The distortions are our judgments and vrittis. So we want to get those vrittis and judgments out of the way so we can be in this present moment. What's fascinating is when we're in this present moment doesn't need any help from us. It's awesome. And this is what drug trips do to people, is they're like, whoa, suddenly the present moment, I'm on a trip. I'm on an endless, eternal trip, and it's all amazing. Okay, well, guess what? It's an endless, eternal trip, and it's all amazing. We should be walking around here going, oh my God, there's white things happening out there on that blue shmush, and wow, a thing just went, and wow, there's something flapping in it, wow. That's the present moment, okay? But we're so busy in our, oh God, it's sort of windy out there. Oh, how's my hair looking? It's going to mess my hair up. I mean, that's our reality versus like, whoa. Our original state of nowness is awe. And that is really what we are working towards getting ourselves back to. The original inheritance of being in a state of awe, in which we can only experience in the present moment. So what we're working out here is get out of the way anything that's not awesome. Now, here's where the meat comes in. We are looking to attain a state of absorption where the knower, okay, so the self, the experience of knowing, and the object of knowing fuse into one indistinguishable indistinguishable subject-object. Okay? So let me say it again. Where you attain a state of absorption where the knower, you're knowing, the experience of knowing, so you've got this experience, you're aware of your experience of the experience, and the object, you're aware of the object, but they fuse all into one indistinguishable subject-object self. So that's pretty interesting because we are pretty multidimensional, okay? So we have an experience, we have thoughts about the experience, we have integrations about the experience, and then we have the fact kind of thing of the and when they all merge together, we start to feel ourselves in the present moment. He gives great exercises for how to attain this, and he's very clear, a very gradient, simple approach that is attainable. So one of the things that I really bugs me about Patanjali's Yoga Sutras, and probably why so many people haven't read it, is because people say these sutras are they're for the masters. They're like, no real person should read them. These are only for the yogis if the yogis should read them, and we can't really understand them. This is a manual for every person. This is the way to attain happiness and enlightenment. It's a manual for life. So I'm like, wow. But the trick here is you got to practice it. Okay? He's listing these practices. You know, these are just words if you don't bring them down into the practice. Here's the meat. When this storehouse of memories and impressions is completely purified. So each of us has an unconscious, subconscious samskaras is what the word is called. Samskaras are your whole subliminal impressions, this whole reservoir of your karma. Your karma individually are samskaras. The whole thing is called your karma. So you got a basket of karma here. Each one is a samskara. All those samskaras together make up your karma. The trick here is to take those samskaras and to empty this basket so that your karma is completed and digested. So now we got to go into what is our karma. Okay? So it says here, when the storehouse of memories and impressions is completely purified, perception is empty of the vacillations of the vrittis, and only the object's true essence shines forth in thought-free perception. So again, that brings us to this place where I'm right here experiencing the present moment without any distortion. Okay, those distortions are, oh gosh, it's so nice to meet you, but oh God, you look like my second grade teacher, and I think you're a nice lady, but you must be from Connecticut. That ring is really fascinating. You must be very wealthy. You know, I'm like, well, this is what we do. Our brain does that in seconds. We have somebody summed up, and it has nothing to do with the person that we're with, but there's like some statistics about how within a fraction of a second, we've made up a whole conglomeration about every person that we meet. So this is like, we got to get that stuff out, so that when we're meeting someone, we're seeing that person just as they are, you know, and experiencing this present moment. So how do things get in that storehouse? So I'm going to talk about that before we go to this next verse, which tells how to empty it. So that storehouse, samskaras are anything in the past, and here's where it gets tricky, in this life or others, anything in the past from this life or others that you resisted experiencing fully goes into the bucket where you save it for later. Any time in this life or another where you went, ooh, that's too much, ooh, that's too big, ooh, that's too painful, ooh, that's too scary, ooh, that's too, and I'm afraid of that. What we did in that moment was we said, you, this experience, you're more powerful than me, my infinite, eternal, whole consciousness. I'm afraid of you, so I can't experience you fully right now, so I'm going to send you back here. Now what happens is once it goes into that reservoir, it takes some attention to keep it there. So now we take a portion of our attention and we have it back here, keeping the lid on the bucket, okay? And that's a lot of our prana. That's a lot of our life force. So people who don't have a lot of energy, they're holding down the samskaras and saying, don't want to experience that. Then once we put the lid on it, we're out here trying to control the world so that the lid doesn't come off and I don't have to feel what's back there. And the trick here is take the lid off, open it up, put a hand in and go, oh, this is the experience I was afraid of, feeling like a failure. Yep, this is what it feels like to feel like a failure. Oh, let me go. Oh, this is what it feels like to die. Oh, wow, yep, wow. Oh, this is what it feels like to feel unworthy and unloved. Oh, Whoa, I was afraid of it, but I can experience it fully. When we experience it fully, what happens is it gets forgiven. It gets felt, it's experienced, and as an infinite, eternal whole being, I can say, I can feel what it feels like to feel unloved. I can feel what it feels like to be betrayed. I can feel loss, loneliness, despair, all, the full gamut that life has to offer. I can feel pain. I can feel, you name it, the full storehouse. And when we take our resistance off of feeling those things, now I don't have to control the world and so that I don't experience things like that. The other thing that we like to do is we get mad at people for making us feel something that we've got in our head. I'm like, Jason just said something and he made me feel something back there, so I'm mad at him. How dare you do that to me? When we get to the point where we start really acting in this game and someone actually does get your goat, the fun thing is like, thank you, Jason. Wow, that really got me. That was cool. It's not about him, but I got the hook. That hooked me. I got to look at my hook and thank you. I didn't know that was really a hook for me. I'm going to pull it out of the basket and feel into it. Good job. So that actually is some of the fun. I lived in a yoga ashram, as many of you know. So did Chiruvadan. I just want to introduce him. Chiruvadan is my dear friend. We've known each other for close to 40 years, and we lived at Kripalu together. Part of the grace of living in an ashram is that you're with a group of people, and this is true at Hanuman Maui, who have this methodology in their mind. So we're working on getting as free as possible, and we can reflect back to each other when we're not operating out of our highest self, and when projections start to happen, and we can start to own stuff and feel stuff that's controlling our world. That's a really good thing to have that as a group methodology. Swami Kripalu said, the single best thing you can do for your personal spiritual growth is surround yourself with like-minded people. That is my experience. We need those mirrors, we need those reflections, we need other people who are on this path with us to keep wearing away at this storehouse and to keep reminding us in a moment, whoops, I just lost it there, but that's good because Dasi was holding on to it and it just lifted me up in a moment and no words were even spoken. Wow, that's the presence of like-mindeds and sangha, the true meaning of sangha.
I have a question.
Yes.
Is there anything in there about the functionality of the system, or why, or the why?
The big why. That is a great question. No. I would really have to go, wow, no. I'd love to say what I believe my viewpoint is on that, but in here, I can't think of anything that comes down to the why. It gives us the way out. But, so here's where I go with that. Ultimately, all of this is seated in the belief that many of you have heard me talk about, that you are infinite, eternal, and whole. Okay? So you are either infinite, eternal, and whole, or you're not. Okay? Those are the two choices. And that is really the difference between the spiritual journey. People who believe they're infinite, eternal, and whole, if you truly believed it, you would live fearlessly, because what does an infinite, eternal, whole being have to fear? Nothing. Especially death. Nothing. So we look at our wise beings and saints. Maharaji sure exemplified being infinite, eternal, and whole, sort of having an all-knowing mind, was not afraid of death or anything, had a lot of joy as a result of it, and then gone from this temporary mirage of a body. Jesus, infinite, eternal, and whole, fine, 33, kill me. I'll be back. I came here to tell you, no, there's no such thing as death. You are forgiven. That's what it's called. You're saved. You're all saved because you're infinite, eternal, and whole, and God loves you, and there's only a loving God. So, all right, take me out. Guess what? I'm back. And guess what? You don't go anywhere. I don't go anywhere. We don't go anywhere. Okay? So every master, true master on the universe, simply is one main teaching. You're infinite, eternal, and whole. Now, saying all of that, we seem to come to this place where we forget that. So, this is the why. And in the forgetting, we learn a lot, okay? But all we're doing is forgetting to remember that we're infinite, eternal, and whole. But here's the fun thing about that seeming forgetting. In eternity, eternity, which the mind cannot fathom. So we're busy operating out of constructs of our mind. So now we're talking about something that even our mind can't even conceive of. In eternity, we have this temporary blip of forgetting. Okay? So the question is, did we forget? You know, it's sort of like if a tree falls in a forest and there's no one around to hear it, you know, did it make a sound? You know, like in eternity, if we had a temporary forgetting, is there such a thing? In eternity, you know, did we die? You know, is there such a thing as death? Well, in eternity, no. Like even if we live thousands and thousands of lifetimes and die every time, did we die? No. But we experience death thousands of times, so interesting. You know, but is there death then? Even though we experienced it. So that might be why Patanjali doesn't even mention the why. You know, we're here on our own self-exploration. It seemed like it was a fun idea to forget, just so we could remember. And this is how to remember. You know? But the thing that we're remembering is that we are infinite, eternal, and whole. And he gives the model of the kleshas, which is coming right next, which goes into this. Does that help? I mean, that's my best wild-ass guess at it. You know, but I think why questions are really fascinating because it doesn't really matter, you know, and no matter what the answer is, it doesn't really matter, you know, like when someone, why did I get cancer? You know, it doesn't matter, you know, and no matter what answer I come up with, you got cancer because you're angry with your mother. You got cancer because you ate sugar frosted flakes. You got cancer because there's cell phone waves in the universe and, you know, it affected you. You got cancer because, you know, you took the vaccine. You know, do any of those answers satisfy you, no matter how right it is? And are any of those answers really right?
But in terms of how I would work through the sutras or how I would digest the spiritual practice, it could be meaningful.
Mm-hmm. It could be, and the answer is in Atta Yoga Nushasanam. You know, the answer is right there. Now, union, forever. You know, and then, you know, all is revealed. And when that's all revealed, there's just a smile. Like, so the answer that I just gave, relatively meaningless, was that for my fun and enjoyment? Was that for anything? Did that even happen? You know, did I seem to forget? You know, I mean, like, who knows? Could I ever have been separated, even though I imagined I was separated and had a dream I was separated? Could I ever have been separated? You know, I mean, so I gave you an answer, but it's like, yeah, this is why you got cancer, or this is why you got, you know, like, why did I get hit by a car? Why did I, you know, I mean, like we always, the why question, I always say, whenever we ask why, we just pulled the plug. Like, why doesn't matter. It's completely unimportant. There is, however, a solution, and that is important. Because no matter what, the solution is there, and that's what he's giving us. So there's a practice that regardless of what the why is, there's a practice. The why, you know, and often again, I see people in the whys think that they really got the answer. Why are you like this? I'm this way because my dad was an alcoholic and he was so undependable, and because of that, now I know and I understand that's why I am, because he was that way and that's why I'm that way and that's why. Great. So you know why. But number one, was it really why? Number two, does it help you change anything? Great. You're still an asshole. You know, right? You understand why, but you're still an asshole. So the why doesn't really matter. What matters is, are you willing to do the practices to get out of where you're at, to be where you'd like to be? You know? And lots of people spend a lot of time in the whys. Okay? I think sometimes, you know, so many of the debates on TV are all about whys. Unanswerable whys, and I just call it mental masturbation. It's just like, okay, that's just the pit of whys. You know? Okay. But no matter what answer you come up with, you're not going to be satisfied with it. There'll be somebody else who's got some other why that doesn't match your why. It's happening or happened or whatever. But again, focus all that attention on the solution. There's a solution, and that's actually, like, those are relevant, but people don't really, they like being distracted in whys. So, a thought. And I know that was provocative. You're like, huh? I did that on purpose. We'll talk later. So then now he gives us this idea on how to dismantle our samskaras. So he says specifically by this process of absorption with reflection, and absorption beyond reflection is the perception of these subtle objects explained. The process of subtle perception extends to that which is without form. So let me explain this. Let's say in my reservoir of subliminal impressions here, my samskaras, I'm going to pull one out. I'm a failure as a man. Something is wrong with me. Let's say I have this belief. Okay, so I'm bringing one up that really had a very real. I'll tell you the whole story just for the fun of it. So, and because you'll get about how these samskaras operate us. So, as a young child, I was one of 3 kids. My dad wanted 2 children. My mom wanted 4. I was the 3rd. Okay, I was not really wanted by my dad. That's understandable. You can understand that because I have 2 kids and my wife wanted 3 kids and I did not want the 3rd kid. I was like, I calculate this. We're going to be 70 before this thing's even out of our house. No, there's no way. 2 is enough. So I get it. Okay, I was put in the same situation. So my mom said, as women in the 50s will do, don't worry, I'll take care of it. You don't have to do anything. Okay, so thus I'm born under that thing. I was also born, I was not a man's man. My brother could do no wrong, my middle brother. He could throw bats through the neighbor's windows, and my dad would be like, oh, he's such a boy, it's so great, not get in trouble. And I wanted trolls and, knew how to sew and liked to sing and put on plays. And my dad was like, oh, this one, it's going to be horrible. It's just so going to be really bad for him. I got to rough him up. What I got from my dad was, something's wrong with me. Something is not right with me. I am a failure as a man. And what happened was, I didn't want to believe that about myself, but the truth was I did. Okay? At some point I took it in and I decided that was true about me. And then I spent a lot of my life trying to prove to others that I'm not a failure as a man. Okay? But completely unconsciously. Okay? That's sitting back here, not even aware of it. Okay? The way it shows up is this. So this is the way in our real world it shows up. So, and this is getting down to this process of involution, how we discreate samskaras. So, real life situation, I was in this place, I always did body work, I always had my yoga business, but I always had enough free time to start another, portion of business. And I was like, I really wanted to do real estate, buy homes, buy apartment buildings, be a real estate owner. And I was always a member of what I would call the woulda, shoulda club. I would see houses in Chicago and I'd be like, oh my God, I was going to buy that 2 years ago. If I'd have bought that now, I would have bought $300,000. And I was going to buy, I knew which areas were going to pop. I knew which great buildings. I was really good at it. But I never could get myself to pull the trigger. So I was driving my friend who was my real estate agent nuts. And I was like, this is what I want to do. And I knew that I had all the skills to rehab and be a landlord and do it. But I had the money, I was ready. And something would self-sabotage me every time. So I called a dear friend, Audrey, and I said, Audrey, I need some help. Apparently, I don't have enough witness consciousness, enough presence to be able to go to whatever is here sabotaging me. It's too scary for me. Would you come and sit with me while I do this exploration? And Audrey was just a dear friend who had great witness consciousness and presence. So it wasn't even about speaking word. Literally, Tuesday afternoon, Audrey comes to my office. We sit chair to chair. I'm going in and I'm like telling her what I know. Yeah, Audrey, it's like, yeah, so I could have these buildings and last time I'm there and then there's this. And I start to feel into, I kept saying to myself, feel into what in here do you not want to feel? What feels scary? Where is there to go that's dirty or dark? At some point, I'm verbalizing a little bit to Audrey, and I say, this feels like it's about my dad, which, sort of was like in my head. It's like, sort of. Then all of a sudden, my experience was that a trap door in my belly opened, and I fell a long distance and started sobbing. And what I was seated in was, I'm a failure as a man. And feeling it fully, like I believe I am a failure as a man. And I allowed myself to sit in it. And I allowed myself to feel it. And as I felt it, all these integrations came, all these memories came throughout my life of my father taking it on, but it's not my father, because my father could have done been the same person, was the same father for someone else who, my brothers who didn't take it on that way. So I believed it. I was the one who was source of said, you're right about me. I'm a failure as a man. So I took it on, even though in this integration I could feel that my father was just a person born in the 20s who was trying to protect me. He was loving me, but the way it came out was, something's wrong with you and you need fixing. And I felt the fixing. So I'm having these integrations, and then I'm having insights into my life like that. I would always get somewhere and attract a female major friend who was like an older female who would protect me, sort of like my mother. Because I would go through these things in my life where my mother was she was the one who cared for me. My father didn't even want me. Now, the truth was my father wanted me. Obviously he loved me, and but it was interesting. He coached my oldest brother's baseball team. He coached my middle brother's baseball team. By the time he got to me, he was like, I've done that. So unconscious on his part, completely unconscious, that was there. This is the kind of shit that we do when we make decisions, all of us, and we're in it. As I felt that and felt it was by feeling it and experiencing it that I had all the integrations. That I had all the memories and the ways that this belief that I had connected to so many different things. And when I got to this thing about real estate, what happened was this. I realized that my parents, when they would introduce their 3 sons, they'd say, oh, this is my oldest son, he's a professor. This is my second son, he's an engineer. This is my third son. We're not quite sure what he does. He teaches yoga. And we don't know how he finds these people or where they come from or what, it was like, we don't understand this one. So it was like, wow, but if I was a real estate owner, if I owned, real estate, he's a landlord, he owns properties, he owns, this was something that my dad could say, yeah, you're a real man, you've done it, I approve. That's great. However, if I failed at it, nail in the coffin. You are a failure, and that is the truth. And it would nail the coffin in. And the cost of nailing in the coffin was far more than, and this is all unconscious. So literally, this is how fun the universe works. This was a Tuesday afternoon, sitting with my friend Audrey. Literally that night, my real estate friend agent calls me and says, the perfect house for you is going to go on the market. I'm selling it tomorrow. Come and see it tonight, because I'm telling you this won't last long. I went that night, saw it. The next morning, bought the house. Within 2 weeks, had it fully rehabbed and had tenants in there. And that was the first of a 10-year career of owning buildings and real estate, which I loved and was fun. But that's the way it works. We make these internal shifts, and external world follows pretty immediately afterwards. So this is why emptying this storehouse of subliminal impressions is really important. Make sense? All right. So how are we doing on time, Greg? Is it 5?
It's after 5.
Okay. Thank you for staying. Hey, Jordy, how are you?
5:08.
Okay. 5:08. So I'm going to wrap this up for conclusion, and we'll get poised and settled for next time. So what do you think so far? Just checking in.
Good.
Good shit, don't you think? I mean, he lays it out just pretty clearly.
Well, it seems like to retrieve some scars or whatever, I need to spend time in personal growth workshops or therapy, or you know what I mean?
Yes, but that is not true at all.
Yeah.
Here's why. Life is so cool. We don't have to actually go searching to work on ourselves, okay? Because life has the curriculum right here. As a matter of fact, often when people go searching to work on themselves, they're way off track. So I'll give you an example. I've seen this, I'm making this up now. I really need to lose weight. But I know that this is a problem. It's a psychological problem. So I'm going to go to therapy and I'm going to work on this because, because when I lose weight, I feel sexual and men are attracted to me. And when that happens, it brings up sexual trauma. So I got to work on my sexual trauma. And it's like, okay, that's one opportunity. Or eat right and exercise, start losing weight. What will happen is you're going to be in the position where now you're sexy and men are attracted to you. And you're going to be in the visceral moment of what it takes to dismantle it. You're going to be feeling it in the here and now. So life will bring it to you. You don't have to search for your curriculum. Life is going to show it to you constantly. Okay? So doing your best in every moment to be your best, you will be unraveling your samskaras. And again, often when people are like, I'm going to go, deal with the samskaras that I think or that I like or that, like it's again mental masturbation. It's like, that's fun, but it's not really changing who you are. The real rubber hits the road is, can you be present right here now? And what is keeping you out of the present moment? Anything that's keeping you out of this present moment is a samskara. It's that simple. So work on being present. Everything that comes up, it's got to go. And it's all right here. Patanjali says, and we're about to get to it, what's great is first when you get on the path, it's one thing, but when you actually get rolling with this, you literally create a new mind. At first it's hard and it's a lot of work and it's scary and what am I going to find, and the dragon doesn't live here anymore and oh my God, and it's really, we've got a lot of resistance to it because that's so scary what's back there. After a while you realize every time you release a samskara, you're freer, you're lighter, you get the methodology down and a new mind gets created that loves it. And that's when the emptying starts to really go. Because once you get it all down, it's like, no problem, no problem. You can feel it, heal it, forgive it, love it, put it back on the shelf where it belongs, and that's all the universe wants. Every experience out there just wants to be loved. All the experiences that you don't love, you put in the samskara jar. Okay? And all you have to do is experience it fully. Oh, that's what loneliness feels like. I'm cool. I'm going to put it on the shelf. Now, when it's on the shelf, it's in front of you rather than behind you. That means when I want to, I can feel loneliness. Sometimes it feels good to feel lonely. Wow, this is me just being alone, me and lonely. Yep, everybody's left me. I'm all alone. Ah, great. But it's just one of the infinite possibilities. But when we keep them back there, they're running us. So again, ultimate freedom, and that's what this is. Freedom is this. Whenever there's something back here, it's doing us. When it's out here, you get to do it. You get to choose. Freedom is choice. Is it doing you or are you doing it? When we're free, we get to decide what we want to do. It's fun sometimes to just feel hurt. It's fun sometimes to feel like a victim. It's fun sometimes to feel sad and to be absorbed fully in it. And when we allow ourselves to do that by real experiences that happen right now, it will clear samskaras. So that's why it's really cool, because a moment in the now can trigger something. You start to feel it, and then if you allow yourself to, all of the stuff connected to it go. Which is why the practice of yoga gets so powerful. Someone's in a warrior. They're standing here, they're holding, they're breathing, their thigh starts to shake, then they're this, and their mind starts to go, and something happens, they come out of the warrior, and all of a sudden it's, something came up, something got released. The body holds stored images, memory. And rather than resist it, it's like, wow, feel it. That's the process of purification. Feel it fully. Feel it fully. Whatever comes to you, feel it fully. Because what happened is, babies and children are very present in the now. What happens, the way we get knocked off the now is, some nows suck. Some nows, your dog dies. Some nows, you get hit by a car. Some nows, your mom dies. Some nows, you don't have food. Some nows, your dad beats you. Some now, wow, some nows suck. So when a now sucks, we stop being in the now. I'm going to go off into my head where it's really safe. And then we stop being present in the present moment. Okay? So as we practice being present, every piece of our curriculum will be there, because what stops you from being present will show up with real names, real places, real people, real faces. And the curriculum is simple. Feel it fully. And feeling it fully is what he just said. Absorb yourself fully. Feel it fully and reflect upon being absorbed. So absorb and have insight. Absorb, experience it fully, and have insight. Feel it fully and have insight and integration.
What do you say to people who are neurologically
Great question. As you know, I know a few people that are that way, that are very close to me. So I think the curriculum's the same. You know, I that's my experience. I think the curriculum is the same. Feel it fully. Feel
That word doesn't mean the same thing.
experience it fully, you know, re-experience it fully. Yeah. So again, it's wordology, so we could find some other way to absorb, you know, fully the experience. So when it says here about diminishing these samskaras, you know, or ridding them, there it's not about ridding them. That's often an interpretation. Getting rid of these samskaras? No. We're dissolving them, we're integrating them, we're loving them, we're forgiving them, we're freeing them, we're re-experiencing them. That's the only way out, you know, is to take any fear that we had on them off. They're free. Back you go. So a long time ago, there used to be this method, personal growth method, called soul retrieval. And soul retrieval was nothing more than retrieve the part of your soul and energy and attention that is lost somewhere else, because a huge portion, again, of our creative attention goes back here. So with that example that I gave of I'm a failure as a man, as I like to say, so our experience is all about our attention. Whatever you put your attention on is your experience. Whatever you put your attention on creates. Okay? So it's really good. Key of yoga is be in charge of your attention. Most people are not, okay, due to these samskaras, okay? So be in charge of your attention. Keep your attention in the present moment. So as we do that and place our attention in the present moment, what comes up is what will drag us out. And there's a point that I was going to make here about our attention. Oh, here, this. So your attention is powerful. However, and your attention is your creative force. However, a more and the most powerful creative force is unconscious attention. And it's creating constantly, and it makes it happen. So I'm a failure as a man, I'm unconscious about it, I'm going to hold this back here. I have a portion of my attention going back and creating it. And then in my external world, that's all I see. Constant proof, constant reflection that what I believe about myself is true. I'm a failure as a man. Yep, here it is again. It's the truth, because I'm creating it. I have creative attention back here that I'm completely unaware of, and it's more powerful than my aware attention that's creating. That's why we want to free that up. And then that energy comes back to us for our health, for our freedom, for our choice, you know, for our prana, for our life. This is why people get sick. No attention available, you know, for creation. It's all back here. It's jumbled. And people go, why can't I get what I want? But that's not the curriculum. Getting what we want isn't the curriculum. The curriculum is emptying the stuff. You know, the curriculum is, again, what's the goal? It's not getting shit. The goal here is to attain freedom and happiness. Love this stuff. It's good stuff. So, and thank you all for the discussion. And Dasi, as always, I'm so grateful to be here and for you welcoming me into this place. And, yeah. So we will carry on with more of the methodology, should you so desire, on the first Wednesday of June. Be there, be square. Otherwise, you'll miss your enlightenment.